Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Now, when I go to talk, I've never brought any of my books. I have $100,000 of unsold books, and I never take them anywhere. The only reason I bought this cassette with me today is because I suspected somebody heard me on one, Ms. Strawn or somebody heard me that morning speaking on one of the slots on this particular cassette, which has 43 cuts on it. It's how to raise a delinquent child. Right? Some may have heard that one. That's why they asked me to come. Well, on this clip here, how to raise a delinquent child, it says, begin at infancy to give your child everything he or she wants. 2, when your child picks up bad words, laugh at him. And this is not what I'm going to talk about this morning. 3, I expand on these points in a cassette in one of the clips here. Never give your child any biblical or spiritual training. This is how to cultivate now a delinquent child, a child who goes off track. 4, pick up everything your child leaves lying behind. 5, quarrel frequently in your child's presence. 6, give your child all the spending money he or she wants. 7, satisfy your child's every craving for food, drink, and comfort. 8, take your child's part against neighbors, teachers, and authority figures. 9, when you get into real trouble, apologize for yourself and your child. And 10, prepare for a lot of grief. And then I did another one, how not to cultivate a delinquent child. And the 10 here, kind of the reverse of the 10 that I mentioned early on. The best, most effective way to develop in your child self-worth, self-esteem, and hope is to introduce him at the earliest possible age to the God of the Bible. That's number 1. Now, let me say something briefly on this. I'm not just talking about the Bible as a whole. I'm talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John specifically. A lot of people know a lot about the Bible. They know virtually nothing about Jesus. And, I'm not a Jew, and I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Christian. So if I'm a Christian, I have to know about what Jesus says in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, first of all. Not what Paul said, or Peter said, or Abraham said. I want to reinforce that. So if you're going to introduce your child to the Bible, make sure they know who the center of the Bible, Jesus, is. And they can know about everyone besides him. And then I have number 2, introduce your child to the character, the wonderful names of God in the Bible, such as Creator, Holy, All-Powerful, Life-Giving, Wonderful, Counselor, Prince of Peace, and so on. My point being is that if children get to have a healthy view of God and of the world around them, it's going to be a healthy view of God. That's why I say make sure you're focusing on the Gospels and not just on the whole of the Bible. I mean, there are a lot of people who are very devoted to God, but they'll come in here with a bomb strapped around and kill all of us and themselves, and they say they did it in the name of God. You get why I'm saying we need to know what God we're talking about? You see how important it is? So you can read the whole Bible, but you might be focusing. Jesus said, I'm not come to destroy the Old Testament. I've come to make sense of it. So if you just read the Old Testament and Paul and Peter and so on, and you don't set on what Jesus said about God in the Old Testament, there's a good chance you could still miss the mark. And so there are a lot of religious people, but in my opinion, religion isn't enough, Be sure they know about Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, above all else. And give them the wonderful names of God, Comforter, Holy, Creator, All-Powerful, All-Seeing. So they have a view of God that's great and wonderful and protective of them. Number 3, you see, these are the first 3 in this. Introduce your child to Jesus, the human life of God, Lord and Savior, and to the wonderful stories he told about human beings and about God. After all, I say here, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Not Peter, not Paul, not Abraham, not Moses, as wonderful as they are. But that's what a lot of people focus on. And they wonder, how come I've been talking about the Bible and religion all my days and these children going astray? Because I believe if they're introduced to who Jesus was, they probably won't go astray. That's the point I'm trying to make. But you can tell them all about the wonderful stories of the Bible that miss out Jesus, and it doesn't connect. You know, Jesus speaking on the words about forgiving your neighbor. You know, I spoke to some kids some time ago about turning the other cheek, and they laugh at me. Like, where did you find that from? If we turn the other cheek today, they'll kill you. But that's what Jesus said. If a lot of people turned the other cheek, they would have been alive today. But no, they want to stand up and fight. Jesus said, when you see trouble, run away. Get out of there. Save your skin. You know, he had a lot of practical things about how to live in the world today. And then I go on number 4, introduce your child to the immense sacredness, the mystery and wonder of life. Again, these are expanded. 6.5, teach your child that life is governed by moral laws of good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, love and indifference. 6, share with your child your own distinctive life history and the national history of the Bahamian people. Tell them where you came from, where your parents came from, how tough it used to be. A lot of children don't know these wonderful Bahamian stories, and they think, you know, you were born with, we're all here, relatively speaking, middle class people who are struggling to make ends meet, right? I would doubt if there's anyone here who's not struggling to make ends meet, including me. We go from week to week, hoping you have your job next week, wondering if you might lose your job, and if you lose your job, if you'll find another job. Our children don't realize a lot of what we go through. And the way it comes out is we fight one another and we squabble, but they don't hear the real story of not only where we are in our lives, but what our parents was like, what it was like for our parents when they came from the family islands or whatnot. Miss Daxon, that's a Jamaican name, isn't it? I lived in Jamaica for 12 years. My children were born in Jamaica, although we're Bahamian, but they're wonderful Bahamian stories. Be sure to tell your children about those wonderful Bahamian stories. You know, and how things were in Jamaica. Like Paul Bogle. You know who Paul Bogle is, eh? Paul Bogle is one of the national heroes of Jamaica. I was chairman of the Paul Bogle Society in St. Thomas for a number of years. Tell them about Paul Bogle, how Paul Bogle had to go in the hills in St. Thomas to help free the Jamaican people. Way back when, he was like the Marcus Garvey, like a generation before Marcus Garvey. So share with your child your own history, where you came from, where your parents came from, how hard it was and how hard it is. Teach your child, number 7, the deep, fulfilling intimacy and joy that is possible without sexual intercourse. In other words, teach children that you can find pleasure and joy in life without jumping into the bed with someone when you're 12 years old, or 13 or 14 or 15 and 16. It is possible to do that. In other words, other ways to be joyous. 8, pray often with and for your child. That's important. I don't know. I missed my 9 and 10. I don't have my 9 and 10. But you get the idea here. Susanna Wesley, the mother of Charles and John Wesley, the founders of Methodism, was a really great woman. She had 12 children, 12 or 13 children. And in those days, to have, in the 18th century, to have 12 children was an amazing thing. You know, most of them died. Susanna Wesley, had a time every week where she would call each of her 12 children aside and pray and talk and counsel with them 1 hour. So throughout the week, each of her 12 children she called aside throughout their growing up life, and she prayed with them and talked with them individually, as an individual. Now, when I saw the topic I was given here is parenting skills. The way the topic went is how you can help yourself to help your children. And I found it was a very interesting topic, because I said to myself, If you haven't done it already, it's probably too late. I know that sounds kind of dismal. Now, if you, and I want to demonstrate this by reading, if you haven't found effective ways, in other words, to help your child with their academics and their life skills, you're talking about children, your children, I guess, are all from 11 to 14 to 15, right? Well, we all know that by 6 years old, they're already set in their ways. So I want each one of you to think back what you did with your child for the first 6 years. If you did some really good, strong things with your child for those first 6 years, some of the things I talked about here, they're probably in pretty good shape. But if you've ignored a lot of these things, it's going to be tough for them to make it in the world today. Because remember, whatever you say to them, whatever you do with them, who was it, Brother Curtis or someone is saying, the world out there is kind of rough. There are dozens of kids who are going to have a different message for them. And that's going to have to come against your message. I want to demonstrate this by reading this text of scripture from Matthew 7:7-11. This is a translation by a man called Eugene Peterson, and a translation of the Bible called The Message. If you want a really contemporary version of the Bible, put some money aside and invest in this Bible, The Message by Eugene Peterson. Here's how he speaks. You know that passage of scripture that said, which of you would give your child a stone when they ask for a fish? You remember that passage of scripture? Here's how he puts it, Peterson. Don't bargain with God. This is Matthew 7:7-11. Don't bargain with God. Be direct and ask for what you need. This isn't a cat and mouse hide and seek game we're in. If your child asks for bread, do you trick him with sawdust? If your child asks for fish, do you scare him with a live snake on his plate? As bad as you are, you wouldn't think of such a thing. You're at least decent to your own children. So don't you think the God who conceived you in love will be even better to you than you are to your children? But you get the point I'm trying to make here. What I want to ask you, friends, and I need to take at least a couple questions among ourselves that we can talk about. When your children ask for love and affection and guidance and so on, don't give them a stone. Give them a hug and affection and a listening ear. That's what I'm trying to say. Then you'll wonder why these children turn out so bad. Well, maybe you gave them a stone or sawdust, or put a snake on their plate when they ask for affection and understanding. Get the point I'm trying to make? Now, it's never too late to do that, by the way. I have a son who's 6'2", teaches her son tennis sometimes. He's way over my head. I hug him almost every day. He's a special needs child, excellent tennis player. Has played and won tennis tournaments in Shanghai and Brazil or Greece, you name it, all over the world, including champion at the gym tennis club. And he teaches tennis. He's 6'2". He had a bad fall in Jamaica when he was 2 years old, frontal lobe. And so he's what we call a slow learner, a special needs child. You'll never know it unless he tells you. He knows more people than I'll ever know. He's sociable. You know how they sociable, know everyone business, including my business. But I hug him every day. I reach up to kiss him on his cheek. There's probably a day that doesn't go by that I don't hug him and kiss him.
But he'd like to kiss too.
He likes to kiss it. Yeah, he comes from a kissing, hugging family. He does. He's that way. He'll come up to you. Isn't it true? It's Burroughs, right?
Yes.
I think they got your name wrong here this morning. Right?
I'm feeling it.
Yes. So he is that kind of person. I didn't know. He's very affectionate and very sociable. A lot of people, when I say Kevin Archer, a lot of people, oh, Kevin Archer, that's your son who plays tennis, you know. He's at the tennis center. He's on here playing tennis. He's all over the place. He just loves tennis. The point I'm trying to make is that although he's a big grown man with all the feelings of a man, you know, he ain't no boy, you know. I say there's a 6'2", 46-year-old man who lives with us. 46. I've been married for 47 years. Almost 50 years. So with the point, and I have a daughter, and we hug and kiss all the time and say, I love you. I emailed my daughter, lives in Pittsburgh, the other day. She has to drive to work, all that snow to Pittsburgh, an hour and a half every morning. I wonder if she can reach work. 2 hours, she's a med tech. She has to drive outside. She lives 40, 45, 50 miles outside Pittsburgh to go in the hospital in Pittsburgh to be in for work 6:30 every morning. You know all that bad weather they were having in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, you're sliding all over the place in your car. So whenever I email, I talk to her, I say, you know, send us something. I say, I love you, always have and always will. So even at that age, with 3 children grown, I'm not saying it's too late to hug, but sometimes when you don't know what to do with your children, all this advice I got here, what you could do is show them by hugging them, no matter who they are and how old they are, hugging them, embracing them, saying to them, I love you, take care of yourself. That's the fish, not a stone, you see? You can't give them a snake on their plate because they can run away, Jesus said. So you can do these things. Finally, in closing, because I know we're sharing, I'm going to round up so we can have some dialogue going by. If I stop by 12:15, it'll be all right for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
12:10? 12:10?
12:15 is fine.
12:10, okay. I want to, so those are some introductions. And if you want, as I say, more on that, hear me talk about how to raise a delinquent child, you can get it there. And this book, other book, which is the smallest of all the books I've written, one of the most important, is how to use the devotional life to help you with depression. That's what this is about. It's talking about my own journey. So it's a very personal book. And this is where I want to end up. How can you be in a good position, that's my talk, where you can help your children, academically or otherwise? That's what I was given. What can we do to be of help to our children? Now, as I said early on, don't ignore those first 6 years. Now, you need to go back and see, did I do some right things in those first 6 years or some wrong things? But most of you are going to soon be going into the grandchildren phase. So, you know, they say you do with your grandchildren what you didn't do with your children. People be all over the place with their grandchildren, hugging them up and taking them out and spoiling them. Whereas the children we tend to ignore. But I want to say this. How you can help your children from here going on out, and whatever stage you're at, is to make sure you're helping yourself. You basically can only give them what you yourself have. Now, if I took up this machine here, and one of the things that prevents that is stress and depression and the anger that comes out of the stress and depression. Now, if I held this speaker here for a minute or so, it'll almost be effortless. But if I try to hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, my hand will come lower and lower. It's the same weight. The problem is not with this, it's with my arm. Stress is like that. All of us could hold a certain amount of stress for so long, but you have to know when to put the stress down and take a break before you lift it up again. Otherwise, something bad is going to happen. And a lot of things that go wrong with our children is because something has gone wrong with us, and we kind of put it on our children. One of the things is stress. Depression that can bring on stress, or stress that can bring on depression. When that depression is not recognized and dealt with properly, it turns into what? Anger. Anger is always the other side of depression. I was a counselor for very many years. I've counseled thousands of people in a private practice and otherwise with Dr. Tim McCartney working at Sandlands and all over the place. And I almost always started a counseling session like this, no matter what a person was facing. whether there's a marriage breakdown or the children, I always begun, first of all, by helping them to find out where they are so they can, first of all, make sure they're taking care of themselves. Because people come in and say, I got a bad marriage. It is like, Rev, come fix my husband so I can be better. Or fix my wife so I can be better. I say, no, I can't fix your wife or your husband, but I can help fix you. And that's what it is. It's with them. The young woman who went over the bridge the other day, and that's a tragic thing, but I can tell you, I faced that many years ago. Many years ago, I would talk about this. A woman came to me with a counseling situation when I used to counsel on Collins Avenue with my brother-in-law, Dr. Earl Farrington, the surgeon, and Dr. Cecil Bethel. I had a private practice there for many years. Hardly ever charged anyone anything, but when I wanted to see people in a clinical setting rather than at the church. Remember, she came with 2 children, and you all might faintly remember what I call the Clifton Pier suicide. As many as some of the older ones said, this must have been in the 80s. She came to me at a similar story for 2 young children. That's what this thing the other day brought it to me, that Long Wharf thing. Or not, wasn't Long Wharf, but Montague. It was so vivid. She came to me and she told me about problems with her husband who was threatening to put her out and beat her up and all that stuff. It was obviously under a lot of stress. I remember counseling her, pretty much what I'm saying to you, you're under a lot of stress. Don't worry about what he's going to do. You have to now worry about what you're going to do. I was saying to her, she has family, sisters and brothers. What you must do when you leave here is go to your sister or brother and get some help. She said, I'm going to go to pick up my clothes from home and get out of it. I said, don't do that. Go to the police or a family member, have about 2 or 3 people go with you if you're going to do that. No, I feel safe. It's all right, Rev, I can do it. I read about her in the paper the next day. That was the same woman. 2 children were pushed over Clifton Pier in a car and drowned. It was in the 80s, I think, early 80s. It had to be many years. And I remember saying to myself then, if there was only a shelter where that woman could have gone that night, she would have been alive. Because she didn't have, I'm not sure, as I remember now, where she was going after that. I think some family members. And that's when I started the first shelter for battered women at Bilney Lane, where the Methodist Church offices are now. Because that incident inspired me. That's something we can do a lot more of. A safe house where nobody knows where the woman is for at least a week or 2. You can't have a place where everybody knows where to find her. You know, it has to be a secret place. That's by the way. But the point is, you know, she came for me to help her. I don't know what her husband is, but I can help her. And so when you're thinking about helping your children, make sure that you are in an optimal position to help you. And here's a little logo I've used, or a little slogan. And by the way, this is Trevon Patton, probably our country's foremost movie maker. He's the man who did Gippy's Kingdom. And did you see a little clip the other day, the racing? I think they had on racing on Saturday, last week Sunday, with cars racing at the center. That's Trevon Patton's company that did that. And they had a clip, The Dream. There's a little movie thing that was accepted by the Bahamas Film Festival last year, a famous 15-minute movie produced by Trevon Patton, my colleague, and I'm really close to him. I treasure his relationship. And Trevon has heard this, I think, many times before. And I want you to say, please, after me. Here's where it goes. And I've used this in counseling, and it is what I've used in my own life. It comes from what is called rational behavior therapy, or rational emotive therapy. First of all, beginning with how you think. You see what I said? It's not good to just think about God, but you have to be sure if you have in your mind a punitive, cruel God, or if you have a loving, forgiving, kind God, how the difference that makes. And the reason why people could strap bombs on them, and I don't want to call any religious names, and go into places and blow up everyone, including blowing up their sacred places, is they have this view of God. They have what I call a pathological view of God. It's like the man walking down Biscayne Boulevard some years ago, and he had a bloodied bag in his hand. And they said, "Where you know that bloodied bag?" He said, well, they let him see the bag, and he had cut off his girlfriend's head, and he had his head in the back. I said, why did you do that? He said, God told me to do it. You get the point I'm trying to make? Now he sincerely believes that. That is not my God. You get the point I'm trying to make? That ain't my God. That's his God. But when I read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I don't see that God there. You see how important it is to say. So how you think, rational behavior therapy, determines how you feel. And how you feel determines how you behave. Thinking is important. Rational thinking. We don't know all the details about this dear woman who presumably took a life or did a rash thing, for the moment. But the headlines was, she was frustrated and angry with life. You remember that? That's what the headline said. Angry with life. Just before I came here, this pilot, this pilot, Lubick, the German pilot who ran that plane, you had the latest on it? Depression and hiding his depression. Apparently when he was treated years ago. So, if you have underlying depression, what is called clinical depression, and that's not the kind of thing Reverend Archer or somebody could just sit down and talk you out of that. No, sir. I ain't talking about that kind of depression. That's a type of depression I talk about in the book, for me, what is called non-clinical or non-endogenous depression. Clinical depression is the same way you got a broken arm and you can't do nothing with your arm. If it gets broken, you have to put it in the cast until it's healed. The mind, there's a part of the mind that gets broken. But the difference is you can't see it. You can't see that broken part of the mind. So when the mind gets sick or the spirit gets sick, you see, I come back to things like hugging your child and praying for them, saying, I love you. That can get them. No matter how sick you are. You may not know what's going on. You know what I mean? They may have peculiar behavior. But you say, all I can do is hug the child and pray for them. Pray for them. Hug them and let them know whatever they're going through, I'm here for you. Now, that doesn't mean I can make excuses for you, but I will be here for you and I will stand through you with what you're going through. And if they can hear that every day as often as possible, believe me, you'll go a long way with your children, no matter where they are now with your life. But first of all, you have to know what's happening, how to do that. Angry with life. Depressed. Now, the lady was not really angry with life. She was angry with herself. I don't want to be saying, I don't want anything I'm flippant about what I'm saying. If she had only known her real anger was maybe wrong turns, or I know all the not having a job and the stress of providing for your children, all that is important. And so she said, well, this is such a cruel life and such a cruel world that I might as well not be in it, and I don't want my children to be in it. If I'm going, I don't want them to go through what I went through. What I'm trying to say, brothers and sisters here, we all go through that to some extent in our lives. Don't we? We all go through that, women more than men, because women are more depressed than men. Women are much more depressed, and the depression goes through is nothing like what men go through. Women have a lot more on them. You have a lot more glands, a lot more hormone things that could go wrong with you than men do. So when a woman says she's depressed and a man says he's depressed, a woman's depression is much bigger than our depression. It's a different level of depression. And you can't just say, child, snap out of it. You have to get them to a safe place, a place where they feel safe. Let them talk. They can talk their head off. And then let them talk. Don't go trying to solve the problem. Just let them talk. And sometimes you might say one little word, I'm going to pray for you, or we're going to meet tomorrow again, and that could make the difference between them being alive and dead the next day. So, the formula. Please say it, folks, after me. I am my own best friend, or my own worst enemy. Nobody can be kinder to me than me. And nobody can be more cruel to me than me. That's my life's motto. That's my life's motto, yeah. That's my life. No, you don't have to say. But that is it. Listen to this. Not the world out there. Not that one when I say I am my own best friend with God's help. You understand? When I say I am my own best, I mean like me and God. You know? So when I don't mean the I without God. Me and God together, we are our own best friends. Or if I want to be an enemy with God, I could be my own worst enemy. Now that's true. Nobody can be kinder to you, my brother. What's your name? Brother Oswald? Foster. No one. Francois. No one can be kinder to Francois than Francois. You know that. But Francois could be cruel to himself too if he decide. If Francois say, boy, I don't feel good today, I'm going to drive crazy and reckless and go drink myself. You doing that to yourself. I ain't doing that to you. You make up your mind what you're going to do. But you might say, look here, I'm under a lot of stress today. I can't hold this up much longer. I got to find a way to put this down, talk to someone, go to sleep, tell them if I could have a day off, you know what I mean? Or half day off. Or I could come in late, little late, 2 hours late to catch myself. See if I could talk to my pastor, you know what I mean? It's up to you. Or you can say, I can play big and bad, and you take a drink and you get hyped up, and then the first one talk to you, you chop them up, and you end up in prison. Francois decided that. He decided today, am I going to be my own best friend today, or am I going to be my own worst enemy? Nobody can be kinder to Francois than Francois. And nobody can be more cruel to you than you could be cruel to yourself. No matter how bad someone is to you, you could be badder to yourself. It's an interesting thing. Think about it. So, I have to, therefore, and here's the end of the formula, I have to be careful how I think about myself and about my surroundings. Because the way I think about it is going to determine how I feel. So if I think, look, today I can try and make today a great day. No matter what happened to me, I'm going to try and make it a great day. That's going to be a great day. No matter if someone talk bad to you, one way you say, I've decided, but pardon me what I can say now. But if I say to myself, boy, if anyone pisses me off today, they can get it. You made up your mind, that's what you were going to do. You get what I'm trying to say? You're your own best friend. So every day you make up your mind. You're thinking. The way you think, say please after me. The way I think, determines how I feel. How I feel determines how I behave. See our formula? That's true, you know. So two women, you all in here, I have a special thing for women, by the way. It's not because one of the reasons I have a thing for women is because I think women need to start ruling the world. Honestly, I believe that. I believe you all got much more common sense than us. Yes, I believe that. You see, when you got a rare children, take care and manage her, and women know about managing these things. Men think they know, but we know. You see how we mess up the world? Every year look at all these men trying to fight one another. They want to go to war and things. I'm not saying women are incapable of that, but I think women know, look here, I got to manage this thing, you know, keep this thing calm down. But women, ladies, you know the stresses you've been through in your life. Look here, I've sat down and counseled. I've listened to women, stories that women tell me, the burdens, the responsibilities they have. No husband, no this, no that. They get beat up and you'll never know that looking at them. They put on their makeup and they look good and all that, and they go about their business and whatnot. So what I'm trying to say, you know there were days if you wanted to, you could give up altogether. But God gave you the strength to say, look, let's go another day. Look for the resources to make it this day and get through a day, and you made it through. Why? How you thought. How you thought. The way you think determines how you feel. Now also, by the way, I'll conclude with this and then give you the serenity prayer. Your feelings can also influence your thinking. You could put yourself in a position where you say, I'm going to put myself in a position today where I'm going to put on a nice dress or a nice suit, whatever it is, and you could superficially kind of change things a bit, you know what I mean? You say, I'm going to have a shower, and before you know it, you were down the dumpster because you made a decision. But I guess in a sense, you still make a decision to do it. So it's still your mind. But you could engineer things, or the kind of company you mix with, the kind of people you see that day. You say, now, a grouchy, difficult person, I can try avoid them calmly, you know. I can try to be nice, but I don't want to be around them today. A person I think can lift my spirit, I go and look for them. That's a decision. And so by being with those people who are positive and upbeat and all that, it changes your thinking. You think differently about the day. I mean, you thought you had lousy, and just because you stayed yourself in a different position, you know, to change your mind. Finally, this. So what I'm trying to say, try to use that formula. Before you think about how you could take care of your children, ask yourself, what kind of frame of mind am I in so I'm really in a position to effectively take care of them? Don't try to take care of them to a point where you ignore yourself. That's the point I'm trying to make. And this thing with depression and anger, because if you don't get a hold of that depression, the depression, it's like having a flame in a glass, a candle in an open glass. And as long as that candle is in that open glass, the candle burns freely. But if you put something over the top of that glass, the slower you put, you block out the oxygen, the more that candle gets lower and lower, and then it goes out, and the smoke remains in there. The smoke is like the depression. It's smoldering. So you have to allow the candle to burn in a sensible sort of way, you know, so it can express itself. The candle is like your life. And if once that goes out, it can explode, so to speak. That's what depression does. You may think it's hidden, but it's transformed into something. Finally, the serenity prayer. You've heard it many times before, the serenity. You can write it down if you wish. It's probably the greatest short prayer apart from the Lord's Prayer ever written. It's by a man called Reinhold Niebuhr, who went to the school back in St. Louis where I went many years ago. And here it is. And you can get the rest of the prayer if you Google it. It's much longer than this, but people only remember the first part. Say please after me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So you're praying, God, grant me the serenity, the wisdom to accept things I cannot change. It might be my child. After me, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. My point is this. A lot of things we try to change in life we cannot change. A lot of things we can change, we don't try to change them. But the key is to know the difference. It's to know the difference between what you can change and what you cannot change, and then work on what you can change and let go what you can't change. So we have to look at our children, we have to look at ourselves on a lot of things in life. We say, what can I do about this? I change. Otherwise, we have to do is say, let go and let God. The things we can't change, we have to let it go and let God take care of that. The things we can change, let us do our best, to the best of our ability, to work on that. Thanks very much, folks. Thank you.